Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. What have we got on for today's episode? We have for you one clip to watch. It's quite a long clip though, but it's a good one. I feel like we should take a look at it. It is from Australia. We have Sky News here in Britain, and Sky News is ultra woke. I don't know how or why Sky News in Australia has took the opposite approach, but they have, and it's worked. And the difference between the two is like night and day. Yeah, British Sky News is just pure emotional propaganda-y type lefty stuff. Sky News Australia is hard-hitting facts, conservative facts. Yeah. So the police in Australia are trying to rebrand themselves after everything they've done over the last 2.5, almost 3 years to their own people, selectively enforced to mind, of course, the you-know-what suspects from the usual three-letter woke organisations. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted. But if you was an Australian taxpayer, particularly a conservative, you couldn't. And people are starting to notice the selective policing. So the police the police in Australia have finally understood it, that their reputation, like in Canada as well, is rock bottom. Their reputation is non-existent, and they're starting to feel it. People tell them, look, just go away, don't want to talk to you, leave me alone. They're starting to see it, so they're trying to rebrand themselves. So that's what we're going to look at. We'll get into it now. If you haven't yet though, please like the video, subscribe to the Hoggcast, hit the notification bell, share the video around if you find this video informative. I also have a membership scheme which you can join. I have 9 amazing, beautiful members who honour and humble me, that they support the Hoggcast by becoming a channel member in this quiet little corner of the internet that we call our own, because I am shadow banned and deboosted, so it really helps. But of course, you don't have to. Anyway, let's go.
Closer to home, and Victoria Police Command wants you to forget about what they've been up to for the past couple of years. You know, harassing old women on park benches, arresting pregnant women in their kitchens for Facebook posts, enforcing playground bans on children, and their brutal response to anti-lockdown protests. Yes, please.
And that is in stark contrast to how they treated the woke protests when they were doing the usual stuff that the you know what organisations did. Yeah, just unbelievable, isn't it? Here in Britain, sorry to interrupt it so quickly, we'll play again in a sec. Here in Britain, I remember seeing a video of an elderly woman in London getting arrested and being treated really badly for walking her dog. Yeah, but BLM can do all of these things. Pull statues down.
Forget all that, and remember they are on our side. After 2 years of overreach and selective policing, the VicPol hierarchy want to rebuild their brand.
Police are promising more of this and this in a brand rebuilding exercise.
It's like they're shocked that you've even got a memory. It surprises them. They thought we were at that stage where, you know, you just forget that, like leftists. You know, leftists, they only see as far as their nose and then they just forget. They don't understand that conservative people actually, we have a long-term memory. Yeah,
we're approachable, we're involved, we're working with them, and we're here to help.
They're also hoping to repair.
You're here to help with what exactly? With what? That's like the I can't use the word on this platform, but that's like the bad person who's done bad things to you for a bad and unjust reason, then approaching you out of nowhere one day and saying, I'm here to help. And then when you're scared and say, no, look, just please go away, I don't want anything to do with you, they're like, well, what, man, what, I'm just trying to help.
A brand damaged by 2 years of unpopular COVID policing.
We know we've had to perform duties and engage with people, and it might not have been what they would have expected in the first instance because of the COVID environment we're in.
It's COVID's fault. It's the people's fault for not expecting it. Yeah? You notice there's no... So these people are trying to rebuild their reputation, but there's no personal accountability. Oh, well, it was the people's fault. They weren't expecting it in the first place. Oh, well, it was COVID's fault. Nothing I've seen from Australia in particular showed me that the the officers who were engaging in this thug-like behaviour were opposed to it. They seemed to be actively relishing it. It's the same thing in Canada with the truckers. They actively seemed, in fact, they were even behaving like criminals. In Canada, when the police, they waited until the truckers weren't looking, or they thought that the truckers weren't looking, and then they went and tried to steal their fuel, actually steal their fuel canisters. Yeah, the cans of fuel. And then when they were caught by the truckers filming it on a smartphone, they just wandered off, and then the trucker said to the police officer, "Excuse me, sir, does that fuel belong to you?" Do you know what the officer said? He goes, "It does now." That's exactly what a criminal would say. You know, like if a criminal did a heist, and then like at a bank, and then one of the customers says, "Excuse me, is that yours?" And then the bank robber says, "It is now." We've reached they have reached that level. I mean, we as a society have reached that level, yeah?
No, Commissioner, you didn't have to do any of the insanely illiberal and often downright brutal enforcement that you and your members of your command enthusiastically embrace.
That's
you didn't
what I'm
have to
saying.
allow the police force to become politicised. You didn't have to stand with bureaucrats banning children from playgrounds. You know, want to build trust with the Victorian public? I can't imagine why.
Excuse me, what on earth?
Just put your phone down.
That one really, this is one of the ones that really it just infuriated me. It really did. Like, they think you're their property to do with as they choose.
Yeah.
Can you like
relation
record this?
to-
I'm in my pajamas.
What's
I have
this?
an ultrasound in an hour. because
Yeah,
I'm
she's pregnant.
And that one, he's choking her out. I can't remember the specifics around that. I think she didn't have a mask on, or she didn't give him her ID when he demanded her of it, even though he had no reason to stop her anyway, no real reason. And he choked her out.
What the are you doing? What the are you doing?
You'll never see them treating BLM or Antifa like that, will you? Let's have it true. Will you? You won't. See, that's what happens when you politicise the police. This is what the left don't understand, because again, as I say, they only see as far as their nose. They don't think about tomorrow, the next day, the next week. Yeah, they love they love the past. They'll constantly try and berate you today for things that happened 400 or 500 years ago. But as obsessed as the left is with the past, they're not so. They seem mysteriously ignorant of the future. Isn't that strange?
Media! 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 Oh!
They're throwing stuff now, and okay, they're shooting. They're now shooting.
We have seen Victoria Police behave abhorrently. We had officers in full riot gear even terrorising fruit and vegetable shoppers at Victoria Market.
People buying fruit and veg. They're the target. Do you remember those booster centres in Australia that were put up quite literally in sheep farms? I'm not joking. You've probably seen it yourself. If you haven't, go and, it's not difficult to find. They're telling you what they think of you, yeah? So now the Australian government, and in this case the police, are trying to rebuild their image because nobody likes them or trusts them anymore. And this is what happens when you politicise something. Immediately, you're going to cut off at least half of the other people within the nation or the community that now don't trust you because you've become political. And then you've added to that bonfire of clownery the fact that you now selectively enforce who you arrest for crimes and things like that. You know, like, oh well, we'll give this person a little bit less because they're with BLM. Oh, we won't arrest that guy. Oh, we'll come down like a ton of bricks on those truckers though. Isn't it? If you could see further than your own nose, you would see how damaging that is.
Again, the heavy-handed response to an anti-lockdown protest was in stark contrast to the force's attitude to a mass BLM march during lockdown. For BLM, there was restraint, no mass arrests or fines. But for those questioning why their kids' schools were closed and their livelihoods were being destroyed, they copped this.
It's amazing, isn't it, how the people chanting peace and love and the people who just were at a fruit and veg stall, people who want to open their business, people who want to take their dog for a walk, they are destroyed by the state, the actual state. But BLM, Antifa, they burn things down, pull statues down, do unspeakable things to innocent people just trying to go about their business, and the police literally take the knee. Why do you think that whole bend the knee thing was happening? To bend the knee is a bodily gesture that has meaning. When you bend the knee to somebody, you are surrendering to their dominance. You are bowing to their will. Yeah? It's completely backwards. The whole society is... It's the opposite of what it should be, isn't it? You know, like even in antiquity and in many religious texts, particularly the Bible, they talk about the end times where good is seen as evil and evil is seen as good, and so on and so on. Yeah, you could quite easily fit that philosophy around what we're seeing, not only here, but writ large in the culture war in the West today.
There is so much more I could show you, but this is only a 2-hour show. But I do want to highlight a couple of incidents that show just why so many law-abiding Victorians are normally pro-police now look at the force with suspicion. Now, this next incident...
Sorry to interrupt again, but this is the biggest mistake they made. It's the same in America and around with the Back the Blue crowd. I was Back the Blue. I loved Back the Blue. I backed the Blue. And then I saw the politicisation, I saw the double standards, and with what happened in Canada with the truckers was the final straw. These, the states, and by the states, that's not shorthand for the United States. I mean, the civil states across the West, Britain, Canada, the United States, France, Germany, Australia, etc., New Zealand. When you do something like that, yeah. When you politicise your own police force and use them as a weapon against your own people, selectively, the people who supported you, who in this case, big brain idea, were the people you decided to come down on like a ton of bricks. And then you bent the knee to the people who have told you that they don't like you. Yeah? If you're a police officer, BLM, Antifa have told you more than once what they think of you. Conservatives, Back the Blue, have told you more than once that they respected you. Who did you come down on? You came down on the Conservatives, and you gave the people who have told you they don't like you a free ride again and again and again to do what they like. And even if you do arrest them, their friends at the district attorneys and these prosecutors, who are Judas, in my opinion, will then come in and just let them off anyway. Yeah? So don't come crying to us that no one respects you anymore, because you turned your back on Conservatives. And it takes a lot for Conservatives to actually turn. Yeah, it really does.
Didn't get any attention despite the brutality and clear misuse of a weapon. This is from an anti-lockdown protest in September last year. Note the officer in the back using his weapon to beat the man on the ground.
So I don't think it's a good idea to show that due to its graphic nature, so we'll just freeze frame it. So he's on the ground and he's getting pummeled, basically.
For that. And then there was this brutality on the same day that police in full riot gear descended on the fruit and vegetable aisles of Victoria Market.
Yeah,
another police team in Epping were caught on camera stomping on the head of a man suffering a mental health episode.
And you know why they're behaving this way, don't you? Because they've been emboldened to do it, right? Even though this isn't COVID related, is a man with suffering mental health episode, They've been emboldened to be this aggressive because they're getting away with it. Yeah? They're getting to like it. They're getting to like beating people about the head. There should be mass firings. There should be mass resignations. If you want to clean your image up, Victoria Police, prove it. Literally put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, let's see some firings. Look at that. Did you see that? That is the response. That is the actions of someone who feels supremely confident in their ability to treat you any way they so choose.
Are you kidding me?
Right, I'm going to stop it there. Do you see what I mean? He just stamped on his head. We'll freeze frame that. So they're stamping on it. So we'll fast forward past that. I mean, you saw it anyway, yeah?
Induced coma. And the incident was investigated, but
I should have stopped it a second earlier. So the police investigated the police, even though there is video footage clearly showing the officers ramming their vehicle into an unarmed man. He then gets out and, clear as day on camera, repeatedly stomps on the head of a man who's face down. The police take that footage, thoroughly put it through an investigation, and then the police determined that the police did nothing wrong. Because the ombudsman, or the watchdog, are made up of former police officers, yeah, and people like that.
guess what? You'll be happy to learn that the watchdog found that Victoria Police acted lawfully when head stomping a mentally ill man during arrest. Yes, put that together with the Sluggate saga, the intimidation of Dan Andrews' critics, the politicisation of the police force and selective policing practices, the Lawyer X scandal that completely undermined the criminal justice system, and the failure to properly swear in more than 1,000 officers, then you can see why there may be a crisis in trust in law enforcement in Victoria. And a little cheap PR isn't going to fix that. Police Command needs a clean out.
That's what I mean. But that it gets to the heart of the issue, because that's how stupid they think the public is. Yeah, that's why they were treating them so badly. They see you. That's why they put those booster centres in sheep barns. They could have used a downtown building. They could have used anywhere. They chose a sheep barn. That's what they think of you in Australia. I've said it before. Something's happened in Australia that's like. There seems to have been like a building up of leftists within the public sector, which is we know that they kind of gravitate towards the public sector because the pay is very high, the pensions are very high, and you can fail upwards and you can never really get fired for anything. So the left go into that because it's all about control, isn't it? But something seems to have happened since the pandemic started in Australia that seems to really have emboldened them to do. It's like they feel they can do what they like. They've taken a very reactionary tone. This is the state has taken a very reactionary tone towards their own citizens. Yeah, a spiteful tone towards their own citizens. How dare you defy me? And these are the people that wax lyrical about democracy and the sanctity of democracy. Say the people who, if you oppose them, they stamp straight on your neck. Yeah?
Starting with Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, who referred to anti-lockdown protesters as batshit crazy conspiracy theorists, but this was his attitude.
Conspiracy theorists. Well, look, you know what happened there, don't you?
To BLM protesters during the pandemic.
Victoria Police understands and acknowledges the anger and frustration people feel about events taking place overseas and which are dominating our TV. We absolutely understand the sentiment and the anger that lies behind that, and we're very keen to support community here in giving voice to their concerns. And
yeah. If you think that man represents your best interests, I've got a bridge to sell you in Timbuktu, yeah?
Their protest.
Yes, you can understand BLM protesters, but no consideration for people whose very livelihoods were being destroyed.
Exactly.
Yes, Victoria Police's public image is badly damaged, and as long as the likes of Chief Wiggum over there are in key positions, that ain't going to change.
Yeah, and that's the end of the clip, and we'll end the video here. I'm just going to say as a final statement, it's time that there were firings. These leftists cannot be allowed to fail upwards anymore. Society is collapsing. In Russia, the ruble has already bounced back. So these tough sanctions are just we're hurting ourselves. Energy prices here, do you know how much they've gone up by? Over half. Like that. And by the way, energy prices here in Britain were already sky high. They were already sky high. So the people who are making the decisions, all leftists, even the so-called conservative government, are really just controlled opposition, in my opinion. In my opinion, they are blue liberals. Yeah? Because here, the Conservative Party, the colour is blue. Red is for Labour, of course, because Labour are socialist, communist even. Yeah? Certainly sympathisers. But so we call them sinos, like you guys call them rhinos, Republican in name only. We call them sinos, C-I-N-O, conservative in name only, and that's what they are. They're conservative people on the ground, like actual in the community, have had about enough. Right? We need to see some leftists being fired for their failures, instead of being rewarded with either golden goodbyes or a plum job here, a great job there. Yeah, it's just too much. It's too much of an insult, and we've stoically and patiently took it all, you know. So as for Australia, you know, the police in Victoria State, you got a long way to go before the people will trust you again. And if they do trust you, if the Australian police, the Australian people just blindly trust you again, then you're just asking for more of it, aren't you? Really, that's my opinion. Because people will treat you the way you let them, and when the police start doing that, that's something to take into consideration. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.